Welcome to your NFL Week 2 picks. I'm Mitch, and this is my weekly live stream where I break down every NFL game of the week. I give you my pick versus the spread and straight up who will win, who will lose, and more importantly, who will cover. Ladies, gentlemen, and jabronis, don't forget to spike the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's have some fun talking NFL Week 2. Join me in the live chat and give me your picks for Week 2. And if you're in the comment section below, let me know. Okay, in Week 1, it wasn't the best Week 1 of all time. I'm not going to lie. Okay, especially against the spread. Straight up, we were 10-6. I heard some people struggled in Week 1, though. A lot of people did struggle. There were some tough games, some tough results. 10-6 straight up, but we went 6-10 against the spread. That's not good. That's far below average for me, especially in Week 1. So we're going to make up for it in Week 2 with some better spread picks this week. And guys, don't forget, I do have a new channel. So if you want to support me, and if you do enjoy my content, then head over to Money Mitch. I put the link in the pinned comment. I put the link in the description. You guys can check out my best bets every single week of the NFL season over there. If you're also looking for my actual bets, Patreon is the place to go. On Patreon, I gave out my Money Mitch Money Maker of the Week. Denver came through for us, so we're 1-0. We also were right about Monday Night Football, okay? Won some money on Monday Night Football, so we're on a bit of a roll here right now on Patreon. So join us on Patreon. Link in the description as well, okay? Money Mitch, new channel, betting and fantasy, okay? Patreon for all my bets, $5 a month. Shout out to M Sports Review with the first super chat saying, "Go, Pack, go." All right. Thank you, Dookie. Appreciate you. Let's begin with the first game, a electrifying Thursday night game. The Washington Commanders are on the road at the Green Bay Packers, the team that I proclaimed the best in the NFC. Will they show it in Week 2? They beat Detroit easily in Week 1. Now they have Jaden Daniels, the reigning rookie of the year, in Lambeau. I'm taking the Packers to win, Packers to cover. Here come the Commander fans. Mitch, you never pick us. Mitch, why do you hate us? Mitch, you're always wrong. Mitch, keep picking against us because you're our good luck charm. Whatever it may be, I swear to you, I do not hate the Commanders. I simply will make this about the Packers. The Packers are the higher ranked team in my power rankings. The Packers have the far better defense, and the Packers are at home. These are reasons I like Green Bay. Let's break it down, okay? First of all, their pass rush. Did you check it out against the Lions? Micah Parsons dealing with a little bit of an injury, but he should be good to go. Rashawn Gary. Ooh. Devontae Wyatt. Wow. Lucas Van Ness was whooping candy ass all over the field against the Lions. And that pass rush is fast. That pass rush is awesome. And I love the way that the linebackers of the Packers are going to be able to go sideline to sideline and destroy the Commander horizontal passing game. Right? The Commanders love their screens, their RPOs, their quick throws. That's not happening against Edgerrin Cooper and Quay Walker, the fastest linebacker group in football. Packers got good safeties over the middle. I feel like this game is going to look a lot like the Eagles games in terms of that side of the ball from last year, where the Commanders, the space was limited for their offense because of how quickly the defense rallies to the football and gets to the football and doesn't allow yak. So I think the Packers are going to play really good defense, especially at home, at Lambeau, with the crowd noise, getting after Jaden Daniels. On the other side, I'm a little concerned about the Zach Tom injury. I'm not going to lie about that. Man, I'm not going to lie about that. But I don't know if he is out officially. I just know that he's a little banged up. He's the best offensive lineman on the Packers. And the reason I would be concerned about that is because the Packers offensive line is top 3 in football. I think they have top 3 O-line, top 3 D-line in football. I think they can protect. I think that when Love is back there baking a cake, I mean, he's going to tear apart any team that plays as much man coverage as the Commanders. The Commanders are not playing the Giants. They're not playing the no Andrew Thomas having offensive line. They're not playing Russell Wilson, okay? They're playing a Matt LaFleur offense. They're playing Josh Jacobs running the rock. The Commanders still need to prove to me they can consistently stop a good rushing attack. They need to prove to me that they can play defense against a good offense. It's on the road, short week. Give me the Packers to win. Give me the Packers to cover. This may or may not be a Patreon bet. So if you want to check it out on Patreon, we might be on the Packers. But yeah, it's going to be a good one. I'm looking forward to it. This is a great matchup for an early Thursday night. I will say that. Great matchup for an early Thursday night. Okay, next, we have the Los Angeles Rams at the Cam Ward Tennessee Titans. Rams favored by 5.5 on the road. Okay. This is an interesting game. I feel like a lot of people just would be like, Rams cover. It's easy. It's simple. But I think this game goes a layer deeper than that. I feel like Cam Ward played a lot better than his stats would suggest. I felt like Cam Ward played a lot better than the results in Denver. First of all, Denver's defense is ridiculous. We'll get into that more later. But what really made me frustrated with the Titans, their play calling, their coaching, just really annoying. Callahan is a jabroni if I've ever seen one. He doesn't even know the damn rules of the football game. And the Tennessee offensive line did look pretty bad. Now, you would say Tennessee's offensive line at home should play better. The young quarterback at home should play better, right? I do think they're going to try and get their rookie involved at wide receiver. I think Calvin Ridley is going to try and bounce back here after playing Pat Surtain. And on the other side, Tennessee's defense did look pretty good. They did play well against Bo Nix. They confused Bo Nix, but this is a step up in competition. Even if it's at home, they've got to take on Matthew Stafford, who was PFF's number 1 quarterback in week 1. They got to take on Puka Nacua, PFF's number 1 receiver in week 1. Devontae Adams, who's still a dog. And, a good Rams offense that's well coordinated and well play called. Now, the Titans are going to be hard to run the ball on. They've got the big dudes in the middle, Simmons and Sweat. Don't think the Rams are going to have much rushing ability or run lanes to go with. The Rams offensive line did look shaky against the Texans, but that was the Texans pass rush. Titans pass rush isn't quite on the same level. But the Titans are underrated in the secondary. I like their cornerbacks. L'Jarius Sneed actually played well when he was in there last week. Brownlee's really feisty and competitive, and McCreary can cover in the slot. So I feel like the Titans can keep this one close and competitive potentially. The Rams just feel like over the last couple of years that they don't win many games by margin. They don't win a lot of games in convincing fashion. I'm not really quite sure why that is. They feel like they're a little sloppy on the road when they play outdoors. So this would be one that I probably wouldn't place a lot of my money on, but I'm going to take the Rams to win and the Rams to cover at 5.5. But I don't love it. I don't love it because I do think there's going to be energy in Tennessee with Cam Ward and his debut, right? I do feel like the Rams, like I said, are a little sloppy on the road, and I do think the Titans defense is pretty for real, and they kept that game in Denver. They could have easily won that game, right? So I do think, though, Stafford, Nakua, and Adams is a different level from Bo Nix. Bo Nix was literally trying to give the ball to the other team. So I'll take the Rams to win and cover, but it's not a confident selection, I would say. I would certainly not make this a survivor pick. If you're just joining, don't forget to spike the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to Money Mitch. And don't forget to share this link with your friends and your foes. Okay, next game. We have the Seattle Seahawks at the Pittsburgh Steelers. The first time for Aaron Rodgers to rock Pittsburgh. I think this is going to be not a time to rock. It's going to be a pretty rough debut for the Steelers with Aaron Rodgers, at least offensively. I think that this is going to be a gross football game. I think this is going to be a brutal watch. I think that Aaron Rodgers might get sacked like 7 times. I'm not gonna lie. I think Seattle led the NFL last week in pressure percentage against Brock Purdy. Despite that, they did give up a lot of yards. They did allow the Niners to move the ball pretty well, but it's a different scenario, right? You don't have Kyle Shanahan scheming your offense. You don't have Christian McCaffrey to throw the ball to out in the flat, and you don't have Trent Williams at left tackle, and Brock Purdy can certainly move a lot better than Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers back there took some sacks against the Jets pass rush. Now imagine what Seattle is going to do. Now, obviously, the Steelers playing on the road, a little bit different than playing at home. The Steelers are a much better home team, I think specifically defensively. So I think their defense will get on the right track. I also just wasn't impressed by Seattle's offense. I think specifically their offensive line and drop back pass will be exposed by the Steelers pass rush with, TJ Watt angry, Cam Hayward angry, Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig. They should be able to get some pressures and some sacks and maybe even some turnovers on Sam Darnold. But I do think Seattle can run the ball against the Steelers. We saw the Jets really run the ball all over the Steelers. Can Seattle find some ways to run the ball here? Okay, that is my question. Can that happen? If that happens, I think Seattle can come out on top and pull this slight upset off. It's hard to fade the Steelers at home. It is. I'd also say, though, I have Seattle as the higher ranked team. I think Seattle is the better team. I think Seattle has the better pass defense. I think Seattle, Mike Tomlin, not a good favorite. He's a better as a dog. Like, I don't know. I just kind of feel like Aaron Rodgers comes back down to earth this week on offense, but I still maybe feel like the Steelers find a way to win. This is one of those weird games where I could see this game being settled by like a point or two. Like, this game could be like a Pittsburgh win and a Seattle cover, even if the spread is only 3. Like, this game could be like 17-16. This could be one of those thread the needle situations. That's kind of the feel I get to this game. I think it's going to be really low scoring and really hard to watch. And I'm really indecisive on who I actually think is going to win. Something inside me says Steelers will win. I don't know. Maybe it's just because they're at home. I don't know, though. I feel like I'm wrong no matter what. I'm going to take the Seahawks to cover, though. I feel like this game's going to be 17-16. I feel like this game's going to be 14-13, bro. So give me the Steelers to win and the Seahawks to cover. I'm committing suicide. Next, the Buffalo Bills at the New York Jets. Buffalo -6.5 at the Jets. This is also a really hard one on the spread, but I'm going to pick the Bills to win the game. I feel pretty good about that. It's Josh Allen against the New York Jets. I don't think I have to say much else. But this is a tricky one because I could see a game in which the Bills blow out the Jets, and I could see a game in which the Jets keep it very competitive. It kind of comes down to whether or not the Jets can run the ball. I feel like if the Jets can run the ball on the Bills, then we might have a game. If the Jets can't run the ball, then the Bills could maybe win by margin. 6.5 is tricky. I feel like it's still under a touchdown to where, like, could the Bills win 24-17 or 27-20 or even 31-24? Yeah. And then you're screwed. Probably a stay away from me from a betting perspective. What I don't like about this game for the Jets is I don't love the Aaron Glenn experience against Josh Allen. I felt like last week the defense didn't play well against Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. Felt like they gave up too many explosive pass plays, rather by yards after catch or down the field. And I feel like last year when we saw Josh Allen play Aaron Glenn's defense in Detroit, I think he basically won the MVP award in that game. I think he had like 100 touchdowns. So I'm a little scared about that if I'm backing the Jets. On the other side, and also the Jets pass rush played well against Pittsburgh, but I don't see them touching Allen in this game because I think the Bills' offensive line is much better than the Steelers. And I could still see them attacking the middle of the field, picking on Brandon Stevens. I think there are some matchups the Bills can take advantage of. On the other side, Justin Fields running the ball, Allen and Hall running the ball. Hall looked fantastic in week 1. Garrett Wilson, will Benford shadow him in this game? See, like, this is one where I go back and forth. Like, because if the Jets get behind early, I struggle to see how they keep up. But if the Jets can jump on the Bills early, and like the Bills are coming off a highly emotional win on Sunday Night Football and they're going on the road and it's a divisional dog on the road early in the year, I could see where the Jets could really make this interesting and the Bills have to come from behind to win. So I'm going to go with the Bills to win, the Jets to cover, but I don't have a lot of confidence in the cover because I can see different scripts depending on the way the game goes at the beginning is kind of the way that I think the team will cover or not. So, and also last year, the Jets did lose by only 3 to the Bills. You know, that was a different Jets team, different Jets defense, different quarterback, but the Jets only lost by 3 last year to Buffalo in New York. So I'm counting on a close competitive game from the Jets in their home building 2 weeks in a row. And I think they will run the ball, but I could be wrong. I do definitely think the Bills will win, though. Next, the Cleveland Browns at the Baltimore Ravens. I'm going to take Baltimore to win and Baltimore to cover. The biggest reason I like Baltimore to win and Baltimore to cover, first of all, they're at home. Second of all, they are very angry. And I like Baltimore when they're angry. I like the idea of them beating up on probably still a bad team. You know, the Browns played admirably against Cincinnati, but they had every chance to win the game and somehow still lost. That's an example of a bad team. Joe Flacco, I think, will be under pressure. I think he'll throw the ball to the other team a couple times. I feel like Cleveland will have next to 0 running game in this game, and they'll be chasing, and I think that will lead to sacks, turnovers, and all that stuff. The Ravens are simply unstoppable on offense. Like, I do respect Cleveland's defense, but I don't think it's the same when they're on the road. And I also feel like Cleveland, like, because they play man coverage like that, Lamar can easily scramble away, make some plays. I think Derrick Henry is next to unstoppable. Like, the Ravens offense is just too freaking good. So I think the Ravens win and cover by, like, it's not going to be crazy. I think they'll win by like 14-17, somewhere in that range, but that's still a cover. So it's a big number, but I'll take the Ravens. I think their defense bounces back in a big way. I think a lot of people are overreacting about the Ravens defense, but I think that simply is Josh Allen. It's Josh Allen in Buffalo in comeback mode. I think their defense bounces back big time against Joe Flacco and an ordinary offense. So give me the Ravens to win, Ravens to cover. Ryan, says, what NFL teams should pick for Survivor? The Ravens. The Ravens aren't a bad one. Definitely because they're already 0-1. I can, go through some when I spot them. Well, who do we have so far? I wouldn't pick that game. I probably wouldn't pick that game. I probably wouldn't pick that game. Yeah, so far the Ravens are probably the best bet. We'll continue here as we go, and I'll keep giving you some options, Ryan, as we see them. Guys, if you haven't already, like the video. Liking the video allows more of the homies to find this video, find this live, find the BLV, and subscribe, and grow the community. So, if you love the community, if you love the channel, if you love the content, like the video. It's free. All right. Get it done. It's not that hard. All right. Next up, we have the San Francisco 49ers at the New Orleans Saints. Now, this is a weird one. Apparently, Kyle Shanahan is going to live out his childhood dream of starting Mac Jones at quarterback. Brock Purdy does appear to be out for week 2. Not 100% confirmed, but I do believe it's likely. George Kittle is out for a couple weeks. Jawan Jennings, beat up, could play. McCaffrey playing, I believe. I'm still picking the Niners. The Saints suck. I'm sorry. I think, okay, straight up. I think Mac Jones is better than Spencer Rattler. First of all, okay? I think Kyle Shanahan is better than Kellen Moore. I think the Niners defense is better than the Saints defense by a wide margin. I think the Niners defense looked very good against Seattle on the road. I think they'll look very good once again. I could see this game being pretty close, though. If the Saints defense plays the way they did against the Cardinals, where they limited the Cardinals on the ground and they were able to get some sacks on Kyler Murray. Keep in mind, Kyler Murray was sick, in that game. He wasn't even 100%. And it never felt like the Saints were going to win, but they did kind of play it pretty competitively. I can't. I can't pick the Saints. Until they win a game, I can't pick the Saints. It could be really ugly. I do agree with that. It's hard to really know the variables here. I would stay away from betting this game just because the injuries on the Niners side, you don't know what Mac's going to look like, all that sort of stuff. I do think he'll be fine, but it's hard to really know. You know what I mean? Like Ricky Pearsall, Christian McCaffrey, now Kendrick Bourne, literally Mac Jones' favorite receiver in New England, is on the 49ers, so there is some chemistry there. I think the Niners win because of their defense. I think this is a game that proves the worth of Robert Saleh. I think they win like 20-16. So I'll take the Niners to win and Niners to cover here. Ugly one. It would be a big win if they do win, though, because a win without their starting quarterback is pretty big. Okay, next up. The New England Patriots at the Miami Dolphins. In my opinion, one of the strangest spreads of the week. I get that Miami's at home, but Miami being favored here, I know the Patriots lost to the Raiders, but Miami was really bad against the Indianapolis Colts. There's an argument they look like the worst team in football, and I think 90% of people thought the Patriots would be better than Miami at the beginning of the year. So I don't really understand why New England is an underdog. Now we'll have to check, who's playing, who's not for both sides. Jalen Waddle, Harold Landry, and Morgan Moses popped up on the injury report. Those are some big ones. Christian Gonzalez, we'll see if he plays or not. Gonzalez is a big deal. Because obviously if he plays, that's definitely a guy to limit Tyreek Hill, but it feels like Tyreek Hill is already limiting himself due to his mental capacity. The reason I think New England wins, despite the Miami, New England's house of horrors over the years, the heat of Miami early in the year is definitely a factor and stuff like that, but Miami's offensive line is atrocious. They are terrible. And New England's defense, I thought they played well last week for good stretches of the game. They gave up some explosives, but they had 4 sacks in the game. They forced a turnover on a better offense, in my opinion, a better quarterback in the Raiders, and a better offensive line. And I thought New England created constant pressure. Milton Williams led interior defensive linemen in week 1 with 6 pressures. Harold Landry leads the NFL in sacks entering week 2. So I think New England will be able to get to Tua. And Mike Vrabel has already proven to beat Mike McDaniel. He did it with Will Levis 2 seasons ago in Miami on a Monday night as a road dog. Vrabel is a great dog coach. He's been one of the best underdog coaches to bet on in the NFL since he entered it as a coach. I think New England has more spirit, more passion, more fire, more identity. And I think they find it this week offensively with Drake May down south, not in the rain, throwing the football to his receivers against one of the worst secondaries in football. And I think on the other side, they take away Tua's first read well enough, they get some pressure, and they force some mistakes. So I think New England wins. Probably won't be pretty, but I just feel like the Dolphins are in a bad way. I think they've given up on their coach, and this might be their last hurrah or whatever, but I kind of feel like New England... I just feel like New England, even if they lost last week, there's just going to be more belief in this team. There's more belief in the future of this team. That with the Dolphins, I feel like nobody really wants to even be there. So I'm going to take the Patriots. Next up, we have the New York Giants at the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas favored by 6. This is a game that I've sort of flipped my opinion on. If you guys don't know, I do break down the games earlier in the week on Money Mitch. So if you aren't already subscribed or, hitting the notification bell over there for all of my content, my early selections, all that sort of stuff, then you should be over there. If you like this video, you'll love that channel. I was thinking about the Giants because I'm like, Dallas is already a 6-point favorite against anyone, especially a divisional foe. That feels like a lot. But at the same time, like, the Giants' offense is so bad. Can I even... Like, the Cowboys could score 21 points and still cover, potentially. Like, Russell Wilson is atrocious. The offensive line is terrible. They have no run game without Andrew Thomas on the left. Dak looked great. CD looked inconsistent, but mostly great. George Pickens could only do more. The Giants have a great pass rush, and I definitely feel like they could keep them in this game. They certainly have a much better pass rush than Philadelphia does, and that's where, like, especially without Jalen Carter, to where, like, they could cause some havoc. They could cause some pressure on Dak, but I do feel like the Cowboys could also run the ball on the Giants a bit better than people think, because the Giants are not as good of a run defense as you would think they would be. So I do think Javonte Williams could have a kind of a sneaky game here. But Dallas is at home on defense. Deron Bland could be out of this game. That kind of sucks against Malik Neighbors, but they still have Trevon Diggs. Now you're testing that secondary depth at corner, which I'm not sure is so great, but Al Harris, a really good coach in that cornerback group. I just kind of am fading Russell Wilson. I'm fading their offensive line. And I feel like the Dallas receivers are a really tough matchup for the Giants secondary. So I think Dallas should be able to win this game by a touchdown. It's probably not going to be a blowout. I think the Giants defense will make this respectable, but I'm also not willing to take the side of Russell Wilson at this point in his career. So I'll take Dallas to win and Dallas to cover, even if it's kind of square, All right, let's get to the next one. Guys, if you haven't already, like the video and subscribe. Next, Jacksonville at Cincinnati. Bengals -3.5. I am leaning towards the Bengals. I'm kind of hoping that this game gets to 3, but I like the Bengals at home. I like the Bengals offense in a bounce back situation, and I think the Bengals defense is better than people think. It's not atrocious, okay? It actually made some big timely plays against Cleveland. Their run defense is legitimately good. And Jacksonville, I feel like coming into this game is going to be a bit overrated because they beat down the Panthers at home on the scoreboard, but it definitely wasn't as bad as the scoreboard suggests if you watch the game. Like, the Panthers got into Jacksonville territory a couple different times. Bryce threw the ball away on 4th down in the back of the end zone. He fumbled the ball. He threw a terrible pick. The Panthers have no receivers, like, so they couldn't expose Jacksonville's biggest weakness of their pass defense. And I think the Bengals will be able to. I think, first of all, Cleveland plays the Bengals extremely well. Denzel Ward is a tough matchup for Jamar Chase. The Browns have a very good defensive line or pressure, with Myles Garrett, who can take over a game. Jacksonville does have Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen, but they're not Myles Garrett. And I just feel like Cleveland in week 1 was always going to be a tough game. I expected a little bit more out of the Bengals offense, right? Which is why I picked them to cover in that game. And it just, it never materialized. Like, they just never were able to quite get there in the second half to be able to put up enough points to be able to cover. But I do feel like this is a different matchup, a different game. I think Cincinnati's offense gets going. It is a little scary because it's still in September and the Bengals typically start the season slow. But I do think, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, they've got the weapons to do it. And I don't think, the Jags, when you looked at last week, they were able to run the ball really well against Carolina. The worst defense in football, the worst run defense in football. They can't tackle. Cincinnati shut down the Browns' run game. They looked really good in the run game. I think that forces Trevor Lawrence to throw the ball. I think Trevor Lawrence can make some plays with Brian Thomas and Travis Hunter, but I just don't think that he'll keep up with Joe Burrow. I don't have that level of faith on the road in Trevor Lawrence against a good offense on the other side. So I'll take the Bengals to win, the Bengals cover. It will be like, I think it will be like 27-21 or like something like that, like 28-24, 31-24, 30-20, somewhere in that range. That's what I expect. I don't expect it to be a blowout by any means. I still expect Jacksonville to score, but I don't think that the defense will play the way they played against Carolina, and I don't think that they'll be able to run the ball as well, which will make their offense a little bit more inconsistent. So I'm going to take the Bengals to win and Bengals to cover. Next, the Chicago Bears at the Detroit Lions. Detroit is favored by 6. I like Chicago to cover this game. I am not sure if I like Chicago to win. It's really hard for me to pick Caleb Williams on the road to beat an NFL team. But I will take the Bears to cover because at a fundamental level, I like the idea of Ben Johnson's team going to Detroit and his team being motivated, coming off a loss that they should have won. They were up by 2 scores. And they're also, I think maybe, possibly, the better coached team in this game. Ben Johnson offensively, Dennis Allen defensively, against new coordinators for Detroit, and a team in Detroit that looked incredibly vanilla, and they lacked any sort of creativity against the Packers. Their offensive line got lit up. I do think the Lions are not quite as bad as they played against the Packers, especially in Detroit in the Dome. But I also feel like the Bears, they played them tight in Detroit last year. I think they lost by a field goal on Thanksgiving. The Bears, I think, will be able to move the ball decently because I think Caleb can run. I think Caleb will have time, unlike Minnesota, because Minnesota has a way better pass rush than Detroit. Detroit does not have a very good pass rush. I think Caleb will have time to make his crazy, stupid plays that he makes. I think eventually these receivers will get open. And I think Ben Johnson will be on a mission to add some creativity to this game plan and screw over the Lions defense. And I feel like on the other side, the Bears are going to be healthier on defense. Jalen Johnson, TJ Edwards, Kyler Gordon. They didn't play against the Vikings, and I think they could play against the Lions. If not, they will play. And those are 3 of the best players on their defense, and they didn't play last time. So I do think the Bears defense is not going to be a pushover for Detroit's offense. And Detroit's offensive line, kind of concerns me. So I could see this as an upset. I could see the Bears winning this game. But I'm going to take Detroit to win because I think that them going 0-2 is just too much for me to stomach. I still feel like Caleb is not consistent enough for me. But I do really like Caleb in backdoor situations with 6 points. I do like that. I'm not going to lie because he's really good at those fourth quarter garbage time drives. So I'm not going to lie about that. And Detroit, they should be able to run the ball better in this game. I think that's maybe the main reason they'll win, is because Chicago's run defense, if there's a spotty area of their defense, I think it's their run defense. If Chicago wins, I think it's because Dennis Allen has some confusing blitzes that Jared Goff maybe gets caught by in certain situations. But this should be a really good game. I think this is actually one of the more underrated games of the week, in my opinion. Next, Carolina at Arizona. I'm going to this game in Arizona. Arizona's favored by 6.5. This one's interesting. The total, in my opinion, is too low. I made that a pick over on Money Mitch. I think it's only like 43.5. I don't think Carolina's offense played as bad as the score against Jacksonville. As I suggested earlier, I think just Bryce Young made some mistakes. And yeah, and last year, I think this game was Carolina won. I think it was in Carolina and it was in overtime, I want to say, and it was in the 30s, I think. Also, Carolina has the worst defense in football. Now, the reason I would say I'm picking Arizona to win, they're at home. It's their home opener. Second of all, Arizona, when they're good on offense, they run the ball well. Carolina has the worst run defense in football. They can't tackle. Like, they look terrible against Jacksonville. I think James Conner and Benson will be able to hit some explosives. Kyler as well. I don't think Marvin Harrison will have as good of a game as he did last week because J.C. Horn's a good player, but Trey McBride should still be able to ball. I do think the Panthers, though, can run the ball a bit on the Cardinals, and T-Mac's legit, and I do think Bryce plays better than he did last week. I definitely feel that way, especially in a dome. I could see Carolina keeping it close, but I'm going to go with Arizona to win and cover. I could see it being close. I want to say it's going to be like 27-20 for the Cardinals. It could be worse than that, but I'm going to go with like 27-20. The last game in my mind is kind of sticking with me. I don't know why. The last time they played. Next, Denver at Indianapolis. Denver favored by 2. This is a really good game. Could have implications in the AFC. Big time. Indy is interesting because they looked fantastic. They looked fantastic against the Dolphins. But how much of that was Dolphin implosion? As I've already pointed out, I feel like a lot of it was Dolphin implosion. I do also feel like Lou Anarumo added some flavor and some creativity to the defense that was very welcomed to the Colts defense. I think the Colts are a very stout defensive line against the run, and they do have some playmakers in the back end that can make some turnovers happen against Bo Nix, who's going to throw some dicey passes out there. I also feel like Lou can take away some of those first read throws like he did against Tua, where like Bo Nix is very similar to Tua in the way of like, if you take away his first read, he gets a little antsy and he starts to like run around and like make stupid throws. So that's kind of scaring me a little bit, but Denver's defense is just terrifying. And I do know that Denver has a great pass rush, and Daniel Jones under pressure is not a good quarterback. And Denver is very good against the run too. So this, I think, will be a close game. I do think Denver will play more inspired. I think they'll play cleaner football. I expect Sean Payton to be on their asses all week, to just be more detailed, you know, dotting their I's, crossing their T's, and just being ready to go. I think a lot of that will play into this game. And Denver's defense is so damn good. I think Daniel Jones will struggle. On the other side, you know, I just don't really know how well Bo Nix is going to play. I feel like it's a big wild card to me. I still feel like there are susceptibilities in the Colts defense that Sean Payton can take advantage of. But the Colts defense played really well against the Dolphins last week. So this is a really tricky one because I still need more information on what the Colts are. I'm going to take Denver to win and Denver to cover because I think they're the better team. And before the season, I had them as the significantly better team. So I'm going to continue to go with that. But I feel like the Colts really impressed me last week. I did pick the Colts last week, but I didn't think it would be like that. So I still, like, I can't bet this game because I just don't know what the Colts are going to be or what they are. But I do know that Daniel Jones is not going to play like he did last week. So I'm going to take Denver. It's kind of what it comes down to. Bears had the number 1 defense in the league. Number 1 run defense in the league, says Perrin. In what stat? In what stat did they have the number 1 run defense in the league? Are you talking about, like, last year? Because that certainly is not the case. Are you talking about last week? So I can check the stats for you. They were 22nd in yards per attempt last week. Defensively. 24th in yards. Last year, the Bears' run defense was 29th in yards per attempt. I don't know what stats you're looking at, but they were not a good run defense. Okay, next. We have the Philadelphia Eagles at the Kansas City Chiefs. Thank you, everybody, for joining me live. This is a Super Bowl rematch 2 weeks into the NFL season. Shout out to the Super Chatters as well. We have M Sports Review and Ryan with the Super Chats. Any Super Chats and any support is very much appreciated. Thank you guys for supporting me and watching all my content. I really appreciate that. This is a big game. Philly, -1 at Kansas City, on the road, going to Arrowhead. Some important injuries, potentially. Big Al needs to give me the update, but Dallas Goedert, banged up, might not play against the Chiefs, probably won't. The offensive line, Landon Dickerson, injured maybe, potentially. I don't know. He feels like a tough dude, and it feels like he probably will play. But I could be wrong. I don't know for sure. The guys that I do know are playing, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. They were invisible last week. I expect them to play a lot better this week. The Chiefs, Worthy out for a while. Rashee Rice suspended. Chiefs have no receivers. Marquise Hollywood-Brown is their number 1. Juju, Tyquan Thornton, slow-ass Travis Kelce. Offensive line was solid last week, but not spectacular. Eagles, I would say, are going to find a formula to get pressure here on Mahomes. Josh Uche was actually the number 1 graded edge rusher by PFF last week, but he didn't play that much, so he needs to play a lot more instead of some of the alternatives. If they rep up and ramp up his snaps, he could be the guy we saw in 2022 who had, 12 sacks for the Patriots. He's in a better scheme fit for him, and I feel like on passing downs, he can be a good factor. Jalen Carter, by the way, as long as he doesn't spit on anybody, will also be playing. Maybe the Eagles' second best player. He's very good. He is their best defensive player. So that's a huge factor, and that will definitely boost their pass rush because everything off of him is what works, basically. I do question how the Chiefs will move the ball. Their run game is not good. They have basically no run game. Their offense is centered around quick throws and throws over the middle. And the Eagles' linebacking core looked like the best I saw next to the Niners and the Packers last week. Like the Eagles have Bond and Campbell, who are excellent in coverage. And Travis Kelce is just like, he's done. And I just don't think those screens, the RPOs, the quick throws, Cooper DeJean tackling in space, I don't think that's going to work. If the Eagles choose to, they could just lock up Hollywood with Quinion if they want, but I don't know if they really will. You can take shots downfield against the Eagles, but Mahomes continues to struggle throwing the ball down the field, and it's not like the Chiefs have any deep threats besides a guy that was cut by the Patriots. So I just don't know how the Chiefs score a lot. On the other side, the Chiefs' defense could play a lot better. I could see them playing more inspired here against Hurts, who kind of embarrassed them in the Super Bowl. Spags will, take notes. The Chiefs did stop Saquon from running the ball in the Super Bowl, and that could happen again. The Chiefs did a good job against the Chargers run game. And without Dallas Goedert, it does limit the opportunities for the Eagles to throw the ball because they don't have great depth at receiver either. So I do wonder if they're going to get Saquon more involved as a receiver here. If A.J. Brown, A.J. Brown against Watson is probably a pretty big mismatch. I mean, Quentin Johnson, absolutely wrecked that guy. So A.J. Brown should have a massive game. I do wonder if Trent McDuffie tries to cover him or if they put him on Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith typically has played well against the Chiefs too, and these receivers have typically separated and played well, but I just feel like if the offensive line's a bit banged up, we'll have to see with Dickerson. That's going to hurt the run game. If Goddard's not there, it's going to hurt the receiving game. The Eagles are very vanilla on offense, and a coach as good as Spags should be able to figure something out here to be able to limit the Eagles. But that being said, Hurts running the, A.J. Brown revenge just after a terrible game last week. They can still create enough explosives. They still have a lot of talent. Hurts has played well against Spags. The Eagles' offensive line feels like the kryptonite of the Chiefs because they feel like they pick up every blitz. They pick up all the pressure. Chris Jones doesn't go crazy against them. And Hurts just has 3.4 seconds to throw every play, and eventually someone's going to get open. And the Chiefs' pass rush looked terrible against the Chargers, who are certainly not the offensive line of the Eagles. So I think the Eagles are the better team all the way around. I think they match up exceptionally well with Kansas City. I think they win this game. I'm not sure why they're only favored by a point. I understand that the game's in Kansas City, and I understand that the Chiefs want some revenge, but the Chiefs looked like a team that got dominated by a pretty good Charger team in Brazil. They're also traveling back from Brazil and playing a game in America, which is also a thing, I feel like. So I like the Eagles. I think this is a great spot for the Eagles. Next, we've got the Atlanta Falcons at the Minnesota Vikings. This is Sunday Night Football. J.J. McCarthy at home versus Michael Penix. This game actually has a feel of like a little bit of a fun, high-scoring game. The Vikings have a lot of injuries entering this game. I don't know what's going on with Harrison Smith. Andrew Van Ginkel's in concussion protocol. Blake Cashman is out, who's really good. And Christian Darrisaw is out. Jordan Addison is suspended. So there are a lot of injuries on the Vikings side. The Vikings are at home, though. Vikings have, in my opinion, like a top 3 home field advantage in the NFL. And the defense does seemingly play better at home because of the crowd noise and because Flores creates so much chaos with his scheme that the noise like basically amplifies that confusion because you can't communicate that well. So I think it plays really well into the way they play. And then on the other side, we have to know what's going on with Drake London. It does seem like Drake London's going to play. And if Drake London does play, I think he'll have a good game because I don't think the Vikings can cover Drake London. The Bears receivers are fine, but they're not Drake London. Darnell Mooney, don't know if he's playing. Didn't play last week. Michael Penix played well last week. I like how he was able to be decisive, throw the ball. I thought he was accurate, on time for the most part, had a couple scrambles. Atlanta's offensive line is pretty good. It's not great. Bijan is awesome. Is that an area where the Atlanta Falcons look to throw the ball using Bijan out of the backfield? He got a long touchdown against the Bucs. Without Blake Cashman, is there a linebacker on the Vikings that can cover Bijan? That's a good mismatch to look at. Kyle Pitts had a good game last week. I think this is actually going to be a pretty fun game. I think this is going to be a little bit of a higher scoring game than you would think, given the Vikings defense is usually pretty damn dominant. But I think with all the injuries they have, the Atlanta Falcons can take advantage. I think the game last year, if I'm not mistaken, was fairly high scoring that they played against each other, and Kirk Cousins was at quarterback. I think JJ has a good game here. Atlanta doesn't have a very good pass rush, and I don't think they'll be able to expose an offensive line without Darrisaw. I do think from the jump, O'Connell will be more aggressive instead of the way he called the game in the first half against Chicago. I think Chicago, even with their injuries, might be a better defense than Atlanta. Outside of Jesse Bates, they have a suspect secondary. I feel like Jefferson can take advantage. I feel like they've got enough. I mean, I wasn't really inspired by the Vikings' weaponry. I wasn't inspired by Hawkinson. Thielen did nothing. I think they need... missing Addison really did hurt. I feel like they didn't really have much. I know they scored quite a few points, but that was a lot in the comeback mode. I'm going to take the Vikings to win because they're at home and it's prime time and it's a young quarterback playing Brian Flores on the road. It's 3.5. I I think the spread was like 6 or 5.5 not long ago. It's moved all the way down to 3.5. I think due to the Vikings injuries and the Drake London uncertainty, this does sort of feel like a field goal game, but I'm going to take the Vikings to win and cover. I think they're going to win by 4. I think it's going to be like 27-23 or like 28-24, 24-20, something like that. Maybe they win by like 6 or something, 6 or 7. I do think the Vikings are the better team, but Atlanta maybe should have beat the Bucs. Atlanta finds ways to lose while the Vikings find ways to win, it feels like. I'll take the Vikings to win and cover, but I don't know. I don't think I would bet this. There's still like a lot of uncertainty with JJ. There's still a lot of uncertainty with Penix. Just not a lot of proven factor here. So, but I think that game is really good. Monday Night Football, Tampa Bay at Houston. Houston minus 2.5. I really like the Texans in this game. I think the Texans win, and I think the Texans cover. The only really area that I'm concerned is, once again, Houston's offensive line against the Todd Bowles blitzing scheme. But that being said, the Bucs have to blitz to get pressure. They're not a very good pressure team without blitzing. So I do feel like the Texans defense, though, is going to go crazy. Like, the Texans defense at home is just absolutely ridiculous. Last week, they played a better offense than Tampa, in my opinion, and they held them to 14 points at home. Puka Nacua, Matthew Stafford, their entire healthy offensive line, and Devontae Adams, and they held them to 14 points. They sacked Stafford numerous times. The Bucs, I don't think are as good on offense as they typically are because they don't have Tristan Wirfs. I think that Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson will feast on that matchup. I also think that Stingley should be able to contain Mike Evans. Emeka Ibuka will get his, I feel like, but that's about it. Like, the Bucs couldn't run the ball against the Falcons. I don't know how well they can run the ball against Houston on the road. And just like every time I feel like I've seen Houston at home against a good offense, they take care of business on defense. Like last year, Detroit struggled against Houston, even though they won. Buffalo struggled against Houston. Pretty much every team in Houston struggles. So I think Tampa is going to struggle. And Baker is prone to throwing some interceptions. And on the other side, I do think Nico needs to get going. So I would expect that to be an emphasis. Christian Kirk could be back, which I think low-key is a pretty big thing. I don't expect the Titans to be able to run the ball at all. But I do expect just the Texans at home to be able to do a little bit more on offense and get the victory. It probably won't be very pretty, but I expect them to win the game. So I'll take the Texans to win and to cover. And then the last game is the Chargers and the Raiders. This is a tricky one. The Chargers are favored by 3.5. The Chargers are coming back from a trip to Brazil. Justin Herbert's on the high. He's in love. Geno Smith shredded the Patriots secondary last week for like 360 yards in the rain. Geno is a baller, and I like the idea of getting Geno at home on prime time with a team coming back from a long trip with a hook. I do like that. I'm not going to lie. Like, I do like that. But the Chargers are the better team. So this is a really, like, tough pick, in my opinion, because if the Chargers were in a normal schedule spot and the Chargers were just playing the Raiders, I feel like I'd take the Chargers. But the whole, like, Brazil trip thing is kind of bugging me. And I was impressed by the Raiders' defense to a certain degree last week. Like, I thought their run defense looked pretty good. I do think Herbert is going to be able to make some throws downfield against the secondary. I'm still not overly high on the secondary. And I thought the Chargers' weapons looked good. Ladd, Keenan, Quentin Johnston. I don't know if they'll get their run game going, but I love how Greg Roman was able to work the play action. And on the other side, the Chargers have a good defense, but like they don't have a great pass rush. I don't even think it's as good as New England's, to be honest. They're just very well coached, and Henley and Derwin James are just spectacular players. Now I would love to see Brock Bowers versus Derwin James. If that's a matchup, I very much look forward to that. But I think, the Raiders low-key have some speed on the outside with Tucker and Thornton. I think they can really make some explosive plays. And I don't know if Genty will get going because it feels like he hasn't been able to all like preseason or regular season. But this is the Raiders at home in their home opener on Monday Night Football with Pete Carroll hyping the boys up, chewing his juicy fruit. So, like, I don't know. I kind of want to pick the Raiders for some reason. But Herbert is, like, I feel on another side of me, like, Herbert, it's like Herbert's year, sort of. Like, not to win the Super Bowl, but I'm kind of feeling this Herbert vibe where, like, he's kind of, like, getting to that next level. You know what I mean? So I almost feel like he's going to pull this out. I'm going to take the Raiders to cover. I'm going to take the Chargers to win because I feel like if I didn't, I would regret it. So I'm going to take the Chargers because I do think they're the better team, but I could easily see the Raiders winning this game. I wouldn't be shocked at all if the Raiders won. This does feel like a divisional loss potentially. So yeah, that's a really tricky game. But those are my picks for week 2 of the 2025 NFL season. If you enjoyed, make sure to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't be a jabroni. And also, go over to Money Mitch. Subscribe to Money Mitch. We've got a lot of content coming. Best bets coming soon. Starts and sits coming soon. My over-under picks are over there as well, which are not available on the Bottom Line View. And guys, if you haven't already signed up to Patreon, sign up to Patreon. We got a big comeback win thanks to JJ McCarthy on Monday night. And we're looking to extend that to Thursday night. So thanks for watching. It's Mitch. We'll see you in the next video. Peace.